What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Off the Crossbar podcast here on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, Mars, Pluto, Indoor, Outdoor, Dumbledore, as Pat Gregoire likes to say. We are into a big weekend in the National Lacrosse League. Game 3 between San Diego and Toronto. Game 2, Halifax and Georgia, and maybe a Game 3. In the nest on Sunday. You can follow us on the show at OTCB_podcast. He is at Pete Greggy. I'm at Teddy Jenner. The show on Instagram at OTCB Podcast. Patty, how the heck are you? Have you come down from the McKenna high?
Yes, a little bit. I think reality set in a little bit now that there's talks that McKenna maybe isn't even what the team's going to do, and remembering that Chaika is still their general manager and things are, we still got to figure out if Austin Matthews wants to stay or not. But hey, I said it, and if you haven't looked, go to coolbet.com. Go to Coolbet's Instagram at Coolbet Canada. I went on Winnipeg Sports Talk, who was also looking to see if the Jets sneak their way up to first. My usual weekly hit, especially during this time of year. Myself and Andrew Hustler Patterson talk a little bit of golf on Wednesdays. We'll talk playoff hockey. Maybe he even gives us the 1 minute Pat Gregoire's lacrosse roundup usually too.
Yeah.
But I came on and I was a heel. I had my cigar out, my sunglasses, and poke some fun there. So go watch that clip. I thought it was pretty funny. But like I said, reality set in. It's like, okay, good pick here, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And I said it on the show. The best soap opera on television is the Toronto Maple Leafs. The highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week in the Toronto sports landscape, and the Rock hope to continue with the good vibes as they host Game 3 of one of the semifinals. We'll speak with Ed Comeau, head coach of the Georgia Swarm, general manager of Team Canada. Maybe talk some Olympics with them. But the Swarm have a big couple of games coming up with everything going on down in Georgia. They'll have to play 2 games in Halifax, and for Georgia Swarm fans, they hope that it will be indeed 2 games. But Patty, just give me your thoughts on we haven't done a show in a couple weeks just because of travel schedules and things like that. But how the playoffs have gone, any surprises, any big stories, anything that stands out to you over the past couple of weeks.
Surprises. Where do we start? Where do we begin? But in all honesty, though, Teddy, I think that last couple of years, we've always talked about the parity in this league and how any given night someone can win. But when you look at the results, especially like since coming back COVID, it's a lot of the same suspects. It's, the Buffalo Bandits going back to back to back, Colorado 2 finals appearances during there, Toronto making it to the Final 4. With the exception of last year. Was there really all that much parity in the last couple of years? Sure, yes, during the regular season, but when push came to shove, it was normally the cream rising to the top. I think this year is the purest form of really parity and any given Sunday mentality. And the fact that it doesn't matter how you were playing at the start of the year, in the middle of the year, what really matters is the end of the year. And I think you could argue that are the 4 best NLL teams from top to bottom playing in the finals right now? Maybe, maybe not. But the teams that are playing the best down the stretch are the ones that are playing right now. San Diego and Halifax have been playing playoff lacrosse for about a month and a half now.
Yeah.
And I think that is completely showing. I think we saw that in Game 1 against Halifax and Georgia. And I think that if we can finally now hang our hat on saying that parity does exist and parity is at an all-time high, because come next episode, Teddy, we could be talking about a 7 and an 8 seed team, one of those teams being in a final. We could be talking about both of those teams below 500 in a final. We've seen, like, go back to Rochester. I believe it was year one of their back-to-back championships. They were a below 500 team. We've seen it before. I don't think we've ever seen a final feature two of them. I don't even know if we've seen a Final Four feature two of them. So it's unbelievable. So we can finally say that the NLL is all about parity, and I think this year is the perfect example.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch because, sure, you're not getting, some will say, well, you're not getting best on best. Well, I still think we're getting best on best as this playoff has sort of outlaid itself. And, it's the first time since 2017 that it hasn't been like Saskatchewan, Buffalo, or Colorado. One of those three teams hasn't been in the final. It's breathed new life into the National Lacrosse League, where, we saw a Halifax team that lost like 6 or 7 one-goal games, and everyone said it leading into that Vancouver game. Halifax isn't a true number 8 seed just because the way that they played and the way their season's gone. A couple one-game losses here or there, flipped the other way around. This team is vying for a number 1 seed. It's been so fun to watch. There's been at no point, even when it was 7-1 Vancouver, there was no point where like, oh, okay, this game's over. And that's just the beauty of playoff lacrosse. And we're going to see it on full display this weekend because there's a lot up for grabs. And we're starting to see within, these two semifinals, guys are starting to show up. And we're also sort of seeing guys kind of take a step back and regress a bit. And I think, for CJ Kirst and some of those rookies on the Toronto Rock, they're now starting to feel and see and witness that regular season NLL lacrosse is completely different than playoff lacrosse. It's a different gear, a different speed, a different level of physicality. And at times you can kind of see it affecting some of these younger players. And not that they're not ready, not that they're not skilled enough. It's just a different level. And they're those guys that are struggling, CJ Kirst and some of these other young guys that just maybe haven't found it in the second round are going to need to realize that what I did during the regular season isn't going to work in the playoffs. I have to continue to evolve my game. And man, the way Toronto came out and laid an absolute egg on Sunday, like that was one of the most surprising things to me all playoffs. Yes, Vancouver blowing a 7-1 lead and Halifax coming back to win that game, shutting out the Warriors in the second half was crazy. But I never would have even thought about Toronto going into San Diego with a chance to go to their first final in over a decade, to have a performance like that. That just goes to show that you have to be ready at every single moment of every single game, because a bad quarter can screw you. And now we're getting to game 3. A bad shift could be the end of your season.
I want to quickly go back to the rookie point because, two guys, awards, I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. The finalist comes out, and 2 of the 3 finalists are playing right now. The third being Michael Grace, who's done for the year and likely done for the majority of next year as well. But in game number 1 of the semifinal, Nolan Byrne, who led the NLL rookies in goals and was, I think, 3rd in points, 0 points. You mentioned CJ Kirst as well. And those are 2 guys that at many times throughout the season, and even in round 1, Teddy, like Byrne had 6 points against Buffalo. Kirst had a hat trick. It's not just that the playoffs is different, Teddy. I think it's like the semifinals and then the finals, like it just ratchets up. There's more film. There's more one-on-one matchups. It just seems like the little plays that maybe in February don't seem so big are big plays. And I will say this, the thing about those 2 guys that leads me to believe that I know they're bound for a breakout and to get through that slump is look at the other things that they're doing besides just trying to score the ball.
Yeah.
Both of the guys are absolutely relentless in the ride. Both of them are loose ball demons. So they're not the type of players that if things aren't going well for them, they can't really do much. They find other ways to be effective. And when you do a lot of those things, you get some good karma on your side. And that's when a lucky bounce might go your way because you're doing those little things.
Yeah, it's those 21 plays that CJ Kurz talked to us about a couple weeks ago. You know, the plays between the lines, the little things that make the difference. And I remember speaking with Nick Close after the game against Buffalo, and you know, Byrne told those guys, hey, you know what? I'm looking forward to this game. I'm ready for this game. I don't have nerves. I live for this moment. And he showed it. But exactly to your point, Patty, the next round is just a little bit harder. Defenses have a little bit more film, a little more time to game plan, and things become a little more, you know, in the weeds. And you got to be able to fight through that. And you got to be able to keep the feet moving, not get stuck in the mud. And, you know, we saw that happen for a couple of young guys, but we've also seen, you know, some of the veterans in these moments step up, and that's when you've needed them. But how about Jason Knox for the Halifax Thunderbirds? This kid has just come out of absolute nowhere. I think he had 8 goals in his final 4 games of the regular season. He's got, 8 in his last 2 games played. Like, this guy has really been struck with lightning in a bottle and has a fire lit under his ass right now.
He's been unbelievable down the stretch. I think it all starts, like, you go back and you look at, it's a easy correlation, but you go back and look with the opportunity with Dawson Thied being traded to Oshawa, and he gets elevated into a spot. It's also the fact that Mike Robinson was really struggling during that point. Bobo Hunter was, you know, playing out the back door. So he really got shoved into that spot. And I think we saw in some spots this year where he did rise to the occasion and did come up with big plays and big goals, but like it was in spurts. You could see the spurts. You could see him take over for games at times. We hadn't seen anything like this before. I mean, 4 goals in 2 games, but that's it. That's there. And I was listening to the Creators Game podcast a little bit earlier this morning and listening to Jake Hennock, who obviously is a part of the Thunderbirds organization. He said, this is the Jason Knox we expected when we took him from Panther City. You go back to look at him in his junior days, what he did at Hobart and Ohio State, and you talk to anyone who watched him as a young player, one thing you can't teach, or 2 things, I mean, you can't teach is A, the size, which he's got, and B, that just God-given natural goal-scoring ability. Teddy, does he not have one of the most beautiful shooting strokes in the NLL? Yeah. Like when he's hitting his spots, it's so deceptive. It's so nice.
The one goal he scored against Delbs in the quarters where he kind of came, you know, a stride up from the crease. I think it might have even been a power play goal. And it was just sort of a 3/4 low to high, but like went right at the elbow. And it's not an easy shot, but what I've seen from him, what I've loved the most is his evolution in his shooting, because, you know, early on it was just a lot of outside stuff. And now he's starting to find his game in and out. And the Georgia Swarm are going to have to find a way to counteract that. And the man tasked with that will be their head coach, Ed Comeau, who will join us this week on the Off the Crossbar podcast.
Get your popcorn ready, because something crazy is about to happen.
The guest of the week on the OTCB podcast is presented by the Goalie Factory. The Goalie Factory helps goalies of all ages become complete athletes and improve their game through weekly camps based in Langley, BC. They have elite one-on-one coaching across the Lower Mainland and online coaching you can access anywhere on the planet. They focus on technical skill, athletic development, and building the mindset it takes to perform at your best. Find the Goalie Factory on Instagram at goaliefactory_ or visit goaliefactory.ca to book your session today.
Coming off a tough loss in Game 1 of the semifinal series, the Georgia Swarm are heading to Halifax to take on the Thunderbirds in Game 2. And for their sake, hopefully a Game 3. Eddie Comeau, head coach, joins us now. Sir, how are you?
I am doing well, thanks. Getting ready to head out to the lovely Atlantic provinces and play a lacrosse game.
Yeah, there's nothing like the Atlantics in the late winter, early spring. The chowders be warm and bountiful in the bellies. But, when you speak with your team this week, what's the mood around your club right now?
Well, I think any team, anytime you lose a game and you don't feel you played particularly well, there's disappointment, but disappointment and but also opportunity. We have opportunity to go in and get a win and play to what we think is our potential. So I think guys are looking at that and obviously when we saw the way San Diego played against Toronto with that level of intensity. We know we got to bring a little more intensity than what we brought at home, and we also know Halifax does a great job filling the barn, and it'll be big crowd and loud, and I think our guys really love those atmospheres.
Coming into that game against Halifax, I think it's 47 goals for your group over the 3-game stretch dating back to those 2 games against Rochester and then Buffalo. What did you guys get away offensively to not continue that momentum that felt like you guys were really starting to hit your stride?
Yeah, I think credit to Warren and to the Halifax D. I thought they played very well, and I always say to guys in sports, offense dictates, defense reacts, and I don't think we dictated at all. We reacted to what they were doing, and we kind of got ourselves in a situation where the strength that we had with ball movement and playing with speed, we got away from that. So that's kind of our focus is let's try to get back to doing what we did well, and every team has a different defense, so it's not always plug and play to say, hey, what we did last week is going to work this week. But I think a lot of times it comes down to just really buying in on what we're trying to do and making it happen. And I think throughout the season, we've had success, and we've had success not I think our highest point getter was, I think Jacko was 80-something points. Like we didn't have any 100-point guys, and that was okay. I think we understood that, and everyone's got to contribute. And I think that's the last game. You look through the stat sheet, we saw a lot of guys weren't at their best. So that's kind of the focus is offensively getting back to what we think works for our group, and getting performances out of all of our players.
It's not easy to replace, the size, skill, and just raw athleticism of a Michael Grace. But, when he first went down, you guys plug and played very well. You bring in Jack Travassos for the second game, and, he fills in well. How does this team replace a Michael Grace?
Yeah, I think Michael did a lot for us. I said to a lot of people, I don't know that there's many rookies that come in the league and play on your number one man short, play on your ball team, play on your 6-on-5D, and every other meaningful situation you have out there. So, that's tough to replace. But I will say that I think the mentality of hey, we played a system, we committed to the way we play, and the player that we put in has to do the same thing. We're not expecting him to do Michael Grace things, and we said that to guys last week. Like, yeah, we're not. It's a huge hole to fill, but we're going to fill it with the guys we have playing the system that we feel works for our defense and our goaltending, and obviously we'd love to have Michael playing, and I'm sure other teams are happy he's not. But I will say he's been. It's tough for a young guy to have an injury like that, but he's been great and has said great things to the team, to both during the game and after the game that were really meaningful. And once again, I don't think too many rookies in the league would have the ear of the locker room speaking up, but he certainly did, and that goes a lot to say about what he is as a player and a person. So we're hopefully we can keep playing, and I know Michael won't be back this year, but he's still a big part of our team.
You mentioned Michael Grace's don't, grow on trees. Neither do Jacob Hickey's. And I know he's not a rookie, only played halfway last year. I know you guys were pretty blown away from just the skill and the IQ from the get-go, but it feels like just each and every game this guy plays, he gets better and better and more mature. Just where have you seen his growth, and how pleased are you with his play this year?
Yeah, we were. I mean, I think last year we had a little bit of a nosedive after the start of the season, and I think bringing Jacob in really injected some life into our team, and plays with such energy. As you said, very smart, high IQ player, and just that energy he brings, and very tenacious. And I think obviously height wise, he's a 6'5", big man, but not real thick like Reese Callies or Matt Beers type guy, but he plays tough, he plays hard, he's physical, and runs the floor. Made a great play last week in transition on the Mike Manley goal, and I think I've said before, Jacob Hickey will be a guy that will be in discussions for Defensive Player of the Year very soon and for many years.
When you look at the sort of the playoff inexperience you guys have, how important is it to have, Jacko and Lyle and J-Mac and some of these other guys, really helping to keep the Connells and the Benedicts and the Moons and the Seth Van Scheppens of the world, on task and playing, within themselves, not trying to do too much? Because oftentimes when a team struggles, you will see the younger guys try to play, whether it be hero ball or try to just take too much on themselves. How do you rely on those veterans just to keep everything at an even keel?
Yeah, I spoke to the broadcast crew the other day, and they asked a similar question about that and about the growth of the rookies and how they've played. And you always say, coaching plays a part in that, obviously strategy-wise and correction-wise, but the biggest part in that comes from leadership within. And I think we have great leadership. Like I've said many times, Jordan McIntosh is one of the greatest leaders I've ever played with, and I feel honored that I've had a chance to coach him. And I've learned a lot from working with Jordan and Shane and Brian and Jeff Henrik and Wiedemann and Dobson. Those guys are they've all been in big games, and they're able to share that experience. And we always talk about trying to never get too high and never get too low. And it's easy in sports with momentum to ride the crest of the wave, and you're really excited, and then that crest crashes, and then you're down low. So our veteran guys do a great job of that, and I would say most of those rookies have one of the things we always look at when we draft players is we look at whether they've been leaders on their team, and some of our young guys like the Jacob Hickeys, like the Michael Graces, and several other guys have all been captains or assistants on their team, so they understand the leadership part of it. So they accept that advice from the veteran guys, and a lot of those guys have also played in big games, whether it's Minto Cups or college championships or junior, whatever it is. So the recipe doesn't change in those big games. I say to guys, the greatest thing about big games is you don't have to do anything different. You just got to play your game, and people get caught up in the emotion. People get caught up in the nerves, and so for us, it's we've got great leadership with our players, and they're really helping these young guys just feel the moment, and we say, hey, this is great. There's 10 other teams sitting at home right now wishing they were where we were. And let's enjoy that, and let's have fun, and go out there and be at our best, and whatever happens after that happens.
We had a conversation. I don't know if it was before the Unbox game or one of the other games we did for you, but we were talking about Nolan Byrne, and one thing you brought up is, not only is he a rookie, but he's a 21-year-old rookie. He's one of the youngest rookies, just coming out of junior, now with a full season under his belt. Just have you ever seen a kid his age come into the National Lacrosse League with such confidence and such swagger?
I think, the one player that I coached that was even younger that was just unbelievable was Kim Squire, and Kim was just had like this, and Kim just didn't care who it was, and he just went out and played, and he was unbelievable playing with Colin Doyle, and but obviously a different type player. Kim relied on pick and roll game and his shot and everything else. I mean, Nolan is just I haven't seen anyone as dynamic at that age, and I've said to many people like he has 50 goals in his future, and I would put money on that, Pat, in your business. I would put money on that. I can't put money on that, by the way, but if I could. He's just like I don't know what he scored. I think he scored 37 or whatever it was this year. I mean, he probably had 7-8 goals called back while he was figuring out how to keep his size 12s out of the crease. So I think I definitely see him being a 50 goal scorer. He can beat people one-on-one. He's the dunk. I said to someone today, I think I've seen him score 5 different ways on a dunk. Like it's no longer just a conventional wrap around. He's going the other side. He's going over top. He's reaching around to put it far side, 5-hole. I mean, it's crazy what he's done back there, and it's really made our power play effective. And but yeah, his outside shooting is something that I think he worked on during the year. We talked to him because he was kind of spraying the ball a little bit earlier, and I think when you go from junior to pro and you got huge men out there jumping in shooting lanes, and as you're winding up to shoot, it doesn't happen as frequently in junior lacrosse, and so he's had to adapt his outside shooting game, but he scored a few goals on that recently as well. So I mean he's been dynamic and really fit in well with our group, and humble as well too. And I think he's got really good pedigree. His dad was OHL hockey coach and scout for the LA Kings. So I think his parents have done a good job of keeping him very level and humble, and that plays a big part when you come into a team as a young player.
This will now be the 4th time you've played Halifax for your guys. Hopefully it'll be a 5th time. Where do you find the little differences when there's just so much familiarity between teams now?
Yeah, I think we obviously know them well. They know us. I think sometimes it comes down to just, and you know, I alluded to earlier about the big games, and sometimes big games come down to little things, and sometimes those little things are just opportunities, whether it's catching an old guy stuck on defense, picking up a loose ball that 50-50 loose ball, and, you know, making a play on a double team, like all those little things. And like, yeah, for us, it's not like, I don't think they did anything we didn't expect, and we certainly didn't do anything they didn't expect. So I think it really comes down to execution and in those little plays. And I think you saw that in San Diego, like watching how aggressive they were on every ground ball, and how much they pushed the ball and how hard they ran to the bench. So those are the little things we can control. We can't always control what happens with officiating. We can't control that Jason Knox takes a great shot around the screen and scores. Like those are type of things sometimes we don't have a lot of control over, or someone makes a big play, but we could control the energy that we bring, and those often in these games are the difference in what the final outcome is.
Shame on Teddy and I for we're about 15 minutes into this call, and we haven't even brought up the name Brett Dobson. Historic year, one of the greatest goaltending years we've ever seen. I think, obviously I've watched him for a very long time before. You've known like that something like this was capable and in him. It finally comes. What was the big difference though that allowed him to unlock his game and oversee one of the greatest goaltending seasons we've ever seen?
Yeah, I think part of it is, I think, a system that we played. We talked a lot to Brett over the season. We talked a lot with our coaches about, hey, what do we have? And sometimes you can design or have a system on how you want to play, but if it doesn't match your players, it just doesn't work. And so we kind of said, what do we have? What can we play? How can this be effective? And does this suit Brett's game? And in all those conversations, we thought, hey, this is going to, this type of style of defense with our size and length is going to be effective. And that's part one of it. Part two of it, I think Brett he was really pissed at himself last year. He just didn't think he played well. And like, any good player, and especially any good goalie, they have a level of confidence in their ability. And I think he worked real hard in the off season, and he's been dialed in. And I think I've said many times, I've said to you guys, goaltending is a function of defense, and defense is a function of goaltending. And I think when we have the best goals against in the league, they really play off each other. And we made lots of mistakes, and Brett bailed us out. And I think we also defensively put Brett in a good spot to be successful. So I think it was when Mac made his speech after our last regular season game, there was guys in the room that came up to me and said, man, like, I didn't realize, like, that was the best all time. Like, they thought this was the best this year. No. And I said, I've coached, Patty O'Toole and Bob Watson and Matt Vince. I've coached all those guys, and these numbers are better. And I think our game's evolving. I mean, goaltending wise, like 10 years ago, 75% save percentage was good enough to get you wins. Now you're into the 80s and in mid 80s in a lot of cases to be really good. So, yeah, I mean, he's been phenomenal. And I think, again, he's worked hard at it. And I give him a lot of credit for that. He took the motivation from last year and that he said, hey, I'm going to be, I think I can be a top goalie in this league, and I'm going to go out there and perform.
Is he already penned in as your starting goaltender for LA 28?
No one is penned in, but I mean, I think, again, we've got some, Brett's obviously really good field goalie. And we've got Dylan Ward, we've got Grayson Manning, we've got Cam Starrett, a couple of young kids. I think there's competition there. But certainly Brett, with his success he's had in the field game and success he had in Birmingham playing sixes, it's definitely gives him a big leg up. But those are decisions we've said as a coaching staff. We've talked about players, but it's hard in 2 years and a few months out to say that this guy's going to be there, and especially some of the other guys we have. I mean, we're looking at. We're just looking at the list today. Willem Firth is in our player pool, first team All-American, and, Cody Malosky and Ty Banks. And there's so many good young players that, what we're really hoping is that we're hoping that Olympics, that the lacrosse stays in the Olympics for 2032, because we think we have a great pipeline of young players that maybe are on the cusp of being considered or being really in the mix for 28, but when 32 rolls around, we'll have a great pipeline. So, but yeah, Brett certainly, I know that's one of his goals, but I think if you talk to every player that's on that list, their goal is they want to be on that team, and no different than his coaches. We all said we want to, this is a huge thing to be part of. I've said 1,000 times, it is lacrosse in the Olympics is the biggest thing that will happen to our sport in our lifetimes. And it's a great opportunity globally for lacrosse to grow, and a great opportunity domestically. And we know, we definitely need to grow our game just here at home as well.
When building this roster, how much are you taking into account what they do in the outdoor game, what they're doing inside the NLL, and even just the tournaments and the showcases that you have? Because let's be honest here, the game sixes really is a hybrid between the two other disciplines that we do have.
Yeah, and I think there's example of guys that are all pro players in box lacrosse or field lacrosse that maybe aren't sixes players. It's just their skill set doesn't suit the game. And for us, it's we've consciously said that we're evaluating everything. It's really hard when we, from a timing point of view, that there's so much lacrosse. Like, we have a camp scheduled in July, but that's during PLL season, during WLA, during MSL season. So it's not like we can come in and have them beat the crap out of each other for 3 days and make a decision. So part of it is developing a criteria for how we're going to pick a team, and this is every Olympic sport, and we spent a whole bunch of time when I was over in Milan with the COC people talking about they call it internal nomination process, how you develop your winning style of play, gold medal profile, these things, and how your team is based on that. So, I mean, it'd be easy to sit down and say, hey, we're going to pick 11 guys, but we have to be able to justify that, and part of that justification is what they do at camps and at qualifiers and tournaments and events. But part of that too is, hey, we've watched this guy play 100 NLL games or PLL games or MSL games, and we think their skills translate really well. So it's kind of complicated because it's not like there's professional sixes league we can go scout. So it's really about looking at a player and saying, does their skill set transfer over to the game? And one of the things with our player pool, we have some players there that were curious. They're phenomenal players in either box or field. We don't know if they're going to be transfer over, and that's where we need to look at these players. And I feel the players are in a tough spot because we're a couple of years out, and ultimately there'll only be 11 players there, and all of them want to be there, which I understand. And I've said to the coaches that we'll probably lose some friends out of this because there's going to be tough decisions that are going to have to be made, but we're going to make those decisions based on our profile and style of play, and again, I always say in any of these events, when you pick a team and they win, no one ever questions who you pick, right? So that's always the goal, right? No one was questioning Team USA leaving out some of the players they left out when they won at the Olympics, right? In Canada, you had those questions. So, we're very blessed to have really good depth and a great player pool and a great staff to evaluate and work through the roster.
How has this experience been for you? Like the Olympics, as you said, is a completely different animal. Getting to hang out with the Olympic Committee and going to Milan and checking out athletes' villages and learning how teams are constructed, stuff like that. As a student of the coaching game and of lacrosse, to see it at this big scale, how intrigued are you and curious about all the things that go on on an Olympic stage?
Yeah, and it was funny when we were in Milan. We're standing there in the village part of Canada, and we're just waiting outside to go into a meeting, and we see about 20 buses there to pick athletes up from the village to take them to different events. And by the way, Milan was only one of the areas. There was two other major areas where they had multiple sports going on, but Milan was kind of the base, and there's like these 20 buses, and Justin, who's our on the podium high performance advisor, he said, yeah, see those buses out there? He said, in Paris, multiply that by 20. He said, that's how big the summer games are. So we got a little snippet of what the winter games are. And it's like, it's like the summer is just, massively bigger and huge in scope. So, but yeah, it was a little bit overwhelming. And I spent a week in King City at Kingsbridge with a bunch of Olympic coaches and Olympic high performance leaders, and working with the leadership group from On the Podium. And you came away from there saying, like, wow, like this is a massive investment that they put into their athletes and into their coaches and all the staff. So, but for us, it's really about trying to understand it, but not get frightened by it all, because it's just so big. And we've all been to World Lacrosse Championships, and those are great events, but the World Games gave the guys a little taste because it was a multi-sport event. But again, you're not you're not talking about the size and the scope of what the Olympics is. But getting to meet a lot of the COC people was huge for us. Understanding like things they were talking about, and I've shared this story that we're at lunch with one of the leaders of On the Podium, and he's talking about like summer games they plan 10 years out. He said, yeah, we've been to Brisbane, which is 2032. We've been to Brisbane 3 or 4 times already for planning. And I'm just like, oh man, we're used to, even with the box team, we do an advanced trip 6 months out, maybe, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
and these guys are they're six plus years out, and they're already planning. So yeah, that type of investment and commitment, and it's pretty wild, and for us in lacrosse, we got to get used to that, and there's a lot of work to be done, and we're working hard. Wendy Dobbin is our high performance director for Lacrosse Canada, and she's awesome. She has Olympic experience back with women's softball, so that experience is hugely critical for our program, because we're all lacrosse people, but none of us have been to Olympics on the inside, and being on the inside in Milan as an outsider was pretty eye opening. So we're all looking forward to being on the inside as an insider in LA.
Speaking of exciting things, a couple weeks ago, it was announced that the federal government was going to be pledging $660 million to sports participation. I'm not asking you to give details, but have you heard, if Lacrosse Canada and national programs will be receiving any of this? And also now, because lacrosse is an Olympic sport, at least for LA 28, does that unlock any other sorts of funding when it comes to building those teams?
Yeah, I think, there's two kind of levels of funding. There's Sport Canada funding, which goes to Lacrosse Canada and national team programs, grassroots programs, NCCP stuff, referee certification. There's money that comes from Sport Canada to that. And then the six is funded through Own the Podium. And Own the Podium is a separate branch that funds Olympic sports. And as the name implies, it was in the history of it, it was created around 2010 when we hosted the Winter Olympics, because we'd had, not necessarily great results in a lot of sports. So we're going to invest. And much like the way Australia did in 2000, and Australia invested billions of dollars into sport, and they won a ton of medals. And that's why we're excited with them hosting in 2032. And they're big into lacrosse, that they're, probably going to push to keep lacrosse in. But so the national team programs, like the field, the box, the U20s for all the men's and women's, that's all, Sport Canada funded through the members association, through player dues from the registrations, and then the sixes is funded through Own the Podium, so we're excited about the increase in funding. How that looks for us, that's TBD, and I think there's a hope that there'll be some additional funds that come, and but at the end of the day, we also realize that. In the pecking order of sports, there's a lot of sports that are higher on the rungs than lacrosse is, and we kind of have to make our own way. And whether that's through player registration fees increasing with the provinces, which I know isn't a popular discussion, but compared to other sports, it's still a really small amount, and increasing revenue through sponsorships, and that's something that we're actively working on, and something that we say this is an opportunity for some corporations out there to get in on the ground floor of the sixes program, of being involved in lacrosse with Canada, and hopefully two teams that are going to do make the Olympics and do really well at the Olympics. So we're hoping that we can kind of leverage that newness and excitement about lacrosse being in the Olympics to bring in some corporate sponsorship, much like you see, soccer and rugby and basketball and hockey, and we're obviously not at that level, but we could if we get thrown a few bones, we'd probably be pretty happy.
Well, Team Canada will participate in the Pan American Sixes in late September in Oshawa, the Pan American Championships in Jamaica end of September. So you got a busy few months, but a busy weekend, more importantly. Good luck this weekend. Safe travels to Halifax, Eddie. Appreciate your time as always, my friend, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Great stuff from Eddie Comeau, as always. I could listen to him talk lacrosse all day long. Just so knowledgeable, so experienced. And, we were just kind of talking offline after we finished recording. His team just has to show up and win one game. And that's all they need to focus on. And that one game goes on Saturday in the Nest, a part of a busy weekend. But first, let's like we said, haven't done a show in a couple weeks. Got some mailbag questions out there. So let's dip into the mailbag this week.
You've got mail.
I'll let you lead the charge.
All righty. There's some good ones here, and I am upset that we missed these, but hey, you know what? I know they're not going to all be pertaining to these games this week. Some dissecting things, but hey, let's dive into this one. Dante from Delaware, first-time caller, long-time listener of the program, was excited to get this one in. Who fumbled their season away worse, Ottawa or Las Vegas? Yeah, I've been dying to ask this one. This is why I wanted to get to this. I think it's Ottawa. I think when you look at maybe like where you look at maybe at the start of the year, Vegas started out maybe a little bit hotter, but I think when you put in together of just what happened down the stretch, it's Ottawa, and I don't think it's particularly close, Teddy. The way that Ottawa lost and the expectations for them, I think it's bar none Ottawa for sure. I don't want to say it's a failure of the season because it's the first year of the Dan McRae era, but just looking at it through that lens after a few weeks here, I don't know how it's not Ottawa, and I don't think you can really build a case for Las Vegas, can you?
No, I don't think you can. Sure, Vegas brings in all these, high price tag guys. They Sean Williams does a good job finding some pieces, in the free agency market and some street free agents to bring in. But, they never really shored up their goaltending enough for me to really think that this team had a chance to do some damage at a high level. The way Ottawa collapsed, like they lost their last 5 games. Like you're a team that has Jeff Teat, Riley O'Connor, Rob Hellier, you have all this pride and power and promise of, this is the year. Dan McRae comes in, he's changing the culture, changing the way we go about things. And, the whole message throughout the whole year for them was consistency. And they kept on giving up these big runs. And whether it was giving up 5-goal runs or losing, 5 games in a row to end the season, they just weren't consistent enough. And at the end of the day, this is a team that 100% fumbled the bag. I thought this was a top 6 team for sure. And at the end of the day, another year without playoff Jeff Teat. And it's going to get a little hotter for Dan McRae over the years if they continue to miss the playoffs. So I completely agree. Ottawa not making the playoffs this year is the bigger fumble.
Let's stick with the Black Bears. This one's an interesting one as well. Thomas Walters asks, if you combine the Nighthawks and the Black Bears into one team, would they be good enough to win a championship, or are there still some missing pieces? Teddy, I don't know if you want to take a stab of building the roster. I did take some time to put something together, and sure, you could probably argue some. So let me go over this and you tell me what you think of it. Okay. So their offense would
probably going to be pretty sick.
pretty sick. Okay. So your lefties, your left side is looking like Jeff Teat, Connor Fields, Thomas McConvey, and Riley O'Connor. Your right side is Ryan Smith, Ryan Lanchberry, Rob Hellier, and Connor Kiernan. Pretty good offense. I think that's a pretty damn good offense.
It's a good mix.
The defense, 2 groups that I've been pretty hard on over the last couple of seasons. I think they made some strides. They've taken some steps back. But when you put these 2 together, pretty solid if you ask me. On defense, Callum Jones, Brett Noseworthy, Kevin Brown, Luke Magnan, Jake Stevens, and then rounding things up from the Rochester side, Pacino, Jensen, Coates, Gillies, Gilray, and people are probably wondering, Pat, you didn't include Zed Williams on this team? Oh no, I absolutely did. He's going out the back door to round out the defense. And the goaltending, it goes with Zach Higgins as the starter, and take your choice, either Hutchcraft or Hartley. I'm going to say Hutchcraft as the backup because he's played for Rochester. He was a nominee for teammate of the year in Rochester. The guys seem to like him. So if he's swinging a gate for Higgy, I'm going to go with Hutchie here. What do you think of that group?
I don't hate it. I still like. I knew the offense combined would be outstanding, but you're combining kind of two middling defenses that have some talent, but not an overabundance of talent. And the goaltending for both teams was questionable down the stretch. So I still don't know if this is a playoff team. I think they're going to put goals, but I don't think that's a playoff team.
Wow. I definitely think it's a playoff team. Here's the thing. I build this team and I'm probably, and this is not a shot at Connor Fields because friend of the program, love him, love his game. You can't possibly have Fields and Teed on the same team because who's going to carry the ball? Maybe they buy in and say, okay, it's for the best of it, but maybe that's what I'd be doing. And I'd be shipping out Fields for a boatload of picks and players and pieces for my back end. So, okay. I thought you were going to be closer to this being a contending team.
I don't think that. I still don't think they're a contender.
Wow. I don't know if it's a contender. I don't know if it's a contender necessarily, Teddy, but I think
they're an 8-10 team still. They're an 8-10 team still.
Crazy.
They're an 8-10 team still. They're an 8-10.
Oh, I love it. I love it. A couple other quick ones first. Cody Jansen, friend of the program, just says lacrosse. That's it. That was his question. So moving on. Laxrat, how about this? He asked for a finals prediction, which we won't get to, but listen to his finals prediction. I've got Halifax over Toronto. # teams of destiny. He could be right. The Laxrat could be right here after this weekend.
And it would be the first All-Canadian since it was Edmonton, Toronto in 2015, the last time the Rock were in the finals.
Yeah.
And I think one of my hot takes this year at the start of the year was it would be an All-Canadian final.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I said no.
Not the teams I thought.
No. I think I said if you include Buffalo, I would agree with that take. But last but certainly not least, it wouldn't be a show of the OTCB podcast without a question from our buddy Brad Taz. And again, you didn't prep for this one, so maybe we can quickly piece some players together. And it kind of actually goes well into our awards, which you'll get to after here. But can you build the all surprise team for 2026, building a group of breakout players? So let's say, for argument's sake, let's go 3 forwards, 2 defenders, and a goaltender. And I think I'll start things off, and I think everyone can agree. Coming into this season, everyone was saying, you know what, Halifax probably takes a step back, but I still think they're a playoff team. The question is Warren Hill. Do you go to Hutch? Do they trade for a goalie? And pretty much since the get-go, Warren Hill has shut out all the haters. And I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see him as a finalist for goaltender of the year. I don't think he gives a crap because he's still playing. And I know we talked a lot about Jason Knox. If this team ends up in the finals, whether they win or lose, and depending on how he plays in the finals, I think there will be people making a case for him to be an NLL Finals pick. So is there any other surprise picks that you would put on your team here, Teddy?
I would put, for breakout guys, I'd put Trey LeClaire.
Like that?
Tanner Cook.
100%. Not necessarily a surprise. I think he was a great pick for like breakout player, but almost 50 tucks this year.
Yeah,
like
not much.
I still don't. But no. I still think everyone thought it was going to be breakout season. I still think people were surprised with how damn good he's still played. So I will accept that. I will accept.
Okay,
LeClaire.
thank you. Who else?
I'll throw to the defenders out here, and you
Sure.
can either poo-poo it or agree. Now,
Okay.
I know, again, he is when you talk to a lot of folks in around his organization or who have played with or coached him, and the testament here with Nick Tchaikovsky, guy played on Team Canada, but for whatever reason, never gets the love. He was a defensive player of the year candidate at the start of the year. It's just unfortunately for him, Oshawa fell apart and the love kind of went away. So I was going to go with Nick Tchaikovsky, and my other pick here, Tyson Bell. I think Tyson Bell had a really strong year, whether he's playing in Halifax or in Las Vegas. But I feel like when he moved to Sin City, he elevated his game to even another level. He was within, I think, the top 5 of caused turnovers, really tidied up a lot of the undisciplined play, matured beyond years. And I think he's a guy that can become a defensive stalwart for that Las Vegas Desert Dog team going forward.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I'll add one more forward, Brandon Maia.
Nice.
Kind of came out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but really just kind of surged under Josh Sanderson's tutelage this year. That's a good question. I wish I kind of would have dove deeper into that one, but appreciate everyone tuning in and submitting to the mailbox this week. But as Patty said, the National Lacrosse League did announce their award finalists for this year. We'll go through them quickly. If you want, Patty, you can give your thoughts on who you think should win. Coach of the Year, Ed Comeau, Pat Coyle, Kurt Malosky.
Not just saying this, Teddy, because he is our guest and he was awesome, and we always love talking to Eddie C, but I think expectations plus what they were able to do, the amount of youth, no-brainer for me. I think he should be Coach of the Year.
Pat Coyle, I believe, was my vote. Well, I'm thinking same reason that I'm going to pick Brad Self for General Manager of the Year. The injuries, the plug and play, the ability to have their team fighting for the number 1 overall seed all the way to the final weekend. I just thought what both Pat Coyle and Brad Self did this year were absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to go the Mammoth double dip as general managers were Jamie Dowett, Kurt Malosky, and Brad Self. Do you have a general manager favorite of the year?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you with Brad Self. Okay. Yeah, no arguments there.
Sportsmanship Award, Kyle Buchanan, Ryan Keenan, Jeff Teat. I think those guys combined had 8 minutes in penalties all year.
Yeah, it's you look at all three of them. They're leaders. They're not necessarily always the most vocal leaders, but when they do speak, they command a room. 3 guys that give a lot of their time to media and are gracious when it comes to that. I would be fine with all 3. Jeff Teat is maybe just, I don't even know if Teat was number 1 on my ballot. I just think Mike Carvallis brought up a great point on Daily Dive this week, saying that how many times do you see Jeff Teat getting extra hacks and whacks and gets just beaten into the ground and doesn't say a word, doesn't chirp, just goes about his business and, never ever complains or says boo. So, but I can't, like, I can't remember honestly who I voted for, but all 3 of them were on my ballot for sure.
Absolutely. Transition Player of the Year, Zach Currier, Sam English, Jordan McIntosh. I think this might be a tough one for at the end of the day for the voting public.
I think that this is where, and I know you said you want to go quickly through this, but this is where I'm going to stand on my soapbox. We must abolish the transition award. We must abolish the position. I hate this so much. Everyone knows, if you've listened to a broadcast of mine, whether it's with the San Diego Seals or Calgary from a couple of years ago, or heck, even Peterborough with the Lakers in the MSL when he was playing, Zach Currier is one of my favorite players to watch. This is not a knock on him, but the dude was essentially a forward all year long. Does he affect the game in more areas than just scoring and setting up plays? 1000%. He is a unicorn. He is a player that you just don't find. He is a player that every single team would like to have him. He is guys on my team that I coach. say like that's their favorite player to watch. That's who they want to emulate their game. So this is not a Zach Currier issue. This is a position issue. I really, really don't think that it is fair for him to be up for this transition player of the year award, because when we traditionally look at transition, it is a backdoor defensive player who has the capabilities to run the ball up the floor, stay and play. I know there have been some others. So I'm not going to be one of these people who yell and scream and say, shame on you, NLL, make changes, but don't give suggestions. So what I will say is, why don't we have some different awards? What about if it was the best or the top offensive defenseman of the year?
Frank Selke Award.
Yes. Or what about if it is, instead of that, the best all-around player or the best two-way player in the NLL? That way, guys like Zach Currier, Ian McKay, those guys could be up for the award. Heck, you could put Dane Smith into that mix as well. Yeah. Whether it's Odor, D-Door, Dumbledore, doesn't matter. I just think that it's you're discrediting guys like Sam English and Jordan McIntosh. And yes, those guys stay in play, but Currier is more of a forward that I think is transitioning back or affecting it in between the lines. I just think there's too much muddying of the water now when it comes to this award.
I like calling it a two-way award. I think you can. I think I can get on that page. I think I can get on that page. Defensive player,
but for the position though, Teddy, I'm not done. I ain't done.
Oh shit! Sorry.
every single game, lineup goes out, and you're just listing forward or D that night. That way, if Ian McKay one night played for the Buffalo Bandits, he's going out the back door tonight. He's listed as a defender. That way, so it's just O and D or F and D. That's it, and G goalie. The two-way, like with the transition, I just feel like it muddies the waters. It's difficult for new fans to kind of follow, and that it's just, to me, it discredits other players. Like Mike Messenger didn't get a nomination for defender or transition because I think people were split on what he truly is.
Mm-hmm.
If he was just under transition or just under defender, like I think he's getting more votes, and we probably see him on that ballot.
I think he loses some transition votes because of Jake Boudreau.
Yep, for sure. There's some cannibalization there for sure.
Yeah, but I think it's tough because, like, okay, so what if one day, Buffalo is short a lefty D guy, so they run Mickey out the back. And then the next game, they're short a lefty O guy. They run him out the front. And now he's a D, and then he's an F, and then he's a D, and then he's an F. Like, is that okay with you? That's why we're creating this two-way role?
Bingo. I'm fine with that. Okay. That's just a lacrosse player. I mean, if you talk to all the old – if you talk to the old heads,
old school,
they would like that.
Yeah, but my argument to that is, like – and I'm just going to pick a random D guy. I don't want to see Kyle Rubish playing offense. I don't want to see I won't go any further, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. No, the old school days where it's 5 up, 5 down, and then off. Like, cool. But
I don't either.
Like, I want to see the run and gun, the fast pace. I want to see it going back and forth, but I don't want to see big, slow-footed D guys running offense. And I don't need to see my star offensive players having to backtrack and go play defense. Like, I like the way the game is now. I think finding a two-way player designation instead of transition is a little easier for the ears. Mm-hmm. It takes some of the confusion away out. But as of right now, your transition players of the year finalists: Zach Currier, Sam English, Jordan McIntosh. Let's stick with Sam English and talk about rookie of the year because he was not there. It is CJ Kirst, it is Nolan Byrne, and it is Michael Grace. I have a problem, and I know other people will also have a problem of how can he be a top 3 transition player in the NLL, but not a top 3 rookie? I don't get it. I don't understand it. He was top 3 in my book. He's like 2A. Like, I didn't see any world where Sam English wasn't a Rookie of the Year finalist, and it shocked me that he wasn't. And that's not a knock on Nolan Byrne or Mike Grace, whoever you think is the third man getting into that conversation. But to not have Sam English there when he was voted as Transition Player of the Year is just crazy to me.
I know I was pretty heated about it when I first saw it. And, I still like, I'm just trying to figure out a way. Like, I understand though what people are saying, because like Nolan Byrne was phenomenal. He led all rookies in goals. You take Nolan Byrne off that Georgia team, and how much worse is that offense that struggled a lot this year? Yep. You look at Michael Grace. Again, I know we're not supposed to give away our ballots, but he was on my ballot for Defender of the Year. And so if you think he's good enough to be a top 5 defender in the league for a year, he's probably good enough to be the rookie as well. Again, I think at first glance, I was freaking out. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? But at the same time, I do see a case how that happens. But I'm glad that he's at least getting some love for Transition Player of the Year, because it is well deserved. And you and I think we're on this a long time ago, especially you, partner. You said that there is a good chance that the Rookie of the Year is for sure coming from either Georgia or Toronto, and there's a good chance that it's going to be 2-1 for either team.
Mm-hmm. I honestly, I didn't see it being 2-1 this way, but for Byrne and Grace, unbelievable. For Georgia Swarm and Eddie Comeau and their whole crew, that's just fantastic. But I thought it was Kirsten and English, and then one of Byrne and Grace. I couldn't really decide either way. But at the end of the day, this rookie class will go down as one of the best rookie classes we've seen in the NLL. Defensive Player of the Year: Ryan Dilks, Callum Jones, Brad Cree. We mentioned Nick Chikowski was in the running early stages of the year, but as that team faded, so did his chances. But Callum Jones was a menace all year. Ryan Dilks, one of the best, and Brad Cree led the league in caused turnovers. This is not going to be an easy final tabulation.
Not at all. I think this one's going to probably be the closest out of all of them, to be honest. At least the player awards, I do think. I think maybe Callum Jones at the halfway point, if we're talking about cool bet odds, he probably was the heavy favorite by a large margin. But when the team started to struggle, I'm not saying his game struggled, because it didn't. It's just, the shine starts to rub off on Jones. And I think Cree started to step up his game a lot more down the stretch. I think garnering more attention here, but and then Ryan Dilks is Dilks, man. Like he's going to be in the conversation for Defender of the Year until he decides to hang up his equipment. So fine with all 3 of these, but would love to see Callum Jones, who, even if he doesn't win here, Teddy, probably going to win one of these things.
Sure.
It would be really nice to see Brad Cree finally get his roses and win this award.
I completely agree. And then we can celebrate on our birthdays together. Offensive Player of the Year: Keegan Ball, Andrew Q, Dane Smith. Funny enough, the NLL's leading goal scorer and the NLL's leading assister aren't in this category. Keegan Ball led the league in points. Dane Smith was second. Andrew Q, I believe, led the league in points per game, but only played 12. If you were given these 3 right now and you had a vote, how do you vote? Do you look at what Q did in those 12 games? Do you look at the fact that Keegan Ball led the league in points, or that Dane Smith is still just Dane Smith and doing everything for his team? Like, I think for me, if I had to vote right now, it would come down to the guy who led the league in scoring versus the guy who had the best points per game.
For me, Teddy, I think especially now when the dust has settled, it's Keegan Ball for me. I think it was Keegan Ball for me even before then, because if it wasn't for a godlike season from Brett Dobson in between the pipes, we're probably talking about Keegan Ball winning MVP. We're talking about Keegan Ball, who was lost in the shadows in the offseason. Everyone talking about all the pieces coming in and how many goals is Dixon going to score this year. And is this a potential MVP season for Jesse King? Is he going to elevate his game to a next level? And yes, both those guys had great seasons, but it was Keegan Ball who once again shattered his own career totals and was the first player not named Dane Smith to lead the league in assists in what it seems like in forever, in points as well, I should say. So for me, it's maybe a little bit of a sympathy vote for Ball, because it would really, really suck that 5-6 years down the line, when we go back to this season and we don't necessarily remember the amazing season he had. This way, if he's the offensive player, we'll always have that in the back of our minds.
Goaltender of the year, Delbs, D Ward, Dauber. Safe to say it's Dauber's award, as well as those other two played. I don't think there's any world in which Brett Dobson doesn't win it. MVP category, Keegan Ball, Dane Smith, Brett Dobson. I think it's a 2-horse race between Baller and Dauber. Dane had a fantastic year, carrying that team on his back with all the injuries and everything surrounding the 4-peat and all that stuff. But I think it's a 2-horse race for that one as well. Do you agree, disagree?
It might be a 2-horse race, but one of those racers is Secretariat buzzing down the corner right now because
he's got a 30 furlong lead.
Yeah, I think it's Daubers. I really do.
Okay. All right. And then final one, and this is the one that we're most proud of. The Borelli Award, out to the media person of the year, Graham Perro, for all his great work at NLL Stats. And then friends of the show, Queens of the Castle, the two Tinas, Mackie Jenner and Ashley Docking. You had a great thread on social, just, breaking down the importance of all three. There's no loser in this group. There's only 3 great finalists.
Yeah, it's, all 3 of them, and I said this on Twitter, is all 3 of them bring different aspects to the sport as ambassadors to tell stories. Graham with NLLstats.com, like literally we would be lost without him as broadcasters and reporters. Without that, the preservation of the history, the NLL facts of the day, like that is so abundantly important. And then from a broadcast perspective, you've got Ashley Docking, in my opinion, who is, a true pros pro. When you don't see the hard work that she puts in throughout the week, gathering stories, her ability to get players and coaches to be so comfortable and open allows her to get to know those players and find those stories. I said it. If Doc's on the mic, expect energy, expect knowledge, and expect a lot of laughs. Like, she has that blend that the best reporters in the world, not just the best reporters in the NLL, like I mean it. Like, I think Ashley, it's truly crazy. And we're lucky in the NLL. We're happy to have her. It's crazy she's not working for an NBA team or an NBA on a broadcast or in the NFL or something like that, because that's how good I think she is. And last but certainly not least, Mackie Jenner. We've talked about her trajectory, and a couple years ago it was like the hottest budding star in lacrosse media, one of the hottest budding stars in Canadian sports media, in my personal opinion. She's destined for whatever she wants to do. The fact that she was able to do play-by-play, color, and reporting all in one season on TV is immaculate. It's unbelievable. It's stuff of legends. And every time I hear her, Teddy, on doing play-by-play or color or reporting, I'm like, she does play-by-play. I'm like, man, I think that's what her strong suit is. And then I hear her do color. I'm like, no. She's, no, color. That's her bread and butter. And then I hear her do reporting. I'm like, oh my God, she's just so damn good at all 3 of them at such a young age. It's truly, truly impressive. And I want to say it's a lot has to do with, just the talent, the God-given ability, but that would be discrediting how much hard work dedication, knowledge and passion that she has for the game to discredit that. And, I'm just so proud of all three of them, especially, Ashley and Mackie being teammates of mine and even more importantly, close friends. If it doesn't happen this year, I know there is a Borelli for both of them and even Graham as well at some point for them to get their flowers for sure.
NLL award finalists are on NLL social media. The winners will be announced leading up to NLL Finals Week, I believe, as that has often been the case. But again, head over to NLL.com and you can check out all the finalists. Basically, the finalists, the league knows because there's not a secondary voting of the finalists. These were the top 3 vote getters, and then finalists will be announced, I believe, starting after we get to who's playing in the NLL final. So let's talk about that real quickly before we get out of here and check in with the Polar Bears. We will be at the game in Hamilton for Game 3, San Diego, Toronto. I honestly, Patty, when O'Riggs got hurt, Dunks came in, played great in Game 1. I was like, okay, that's a good performance from Cam Dunkerley. Gave his team a chance to win. Just fell a little bit short. And then Game 2 starts. Chow scores in the opening shot. I'm like, it's been a heck of a run. Xander dig a lot. I just don't think they have what it takes. And then they switched up bodies and they made some defensive adjustments. And they went on a near 40-minute goalless streak, did Toronto. All because just a couple little minor tweaks that Pat Merrill and Cam Woods made on the defensive end. And it was arguably Cam Dunkerley's best game. I thought to myself, holy crap, I didn't think we'd be getting a Game 3 in Hamilton. I thought we were going to Halifax for the weekend. And what a performance from top to bottom from the San Diego Seals. Now the question is, can they repeat that magic on the road in Hamilton? Or does Toronto find a way to adjust to the adjustments?
It's the golden question, really. And I don't know if you can replicate that. Like, I think that's lightning in a bottle. But I would even argue, Teddy, like outside of, some breakdowns in Game 1, there were times where it felt like San Diego was going to grab that lead and hold on to it. It's just Toronto's stars, most notably Rogers, Matthews, and English, came up with those big plays and went hero mode in the third and the fourth quarter. But you want to talk about guys, grabbing the horns and riding the bull. It's San Diego stars have really outshined Toronto's stars at the moment, and especially in Game 2. Leclerc and Berg have been driving the bus. Courier's been unbelievable. You look at his stat line, and then when you sprinkle in a 4-game performance from Watson, no doubt you're going to win that game. I don't know if he can replicate that, but if he can chip in with a couple, if Robinson can chip in with a couple, and McIntosh can do the same, they are going to be really tough to beat. My question, though, is it possible for Dunkerley to replicate that performance?
Yeah.
That's where I really start to wonder if the magic beans wear off, or is this really the Dunkerley that we expected? You've watched Cam Dunkerley for a long time, Teddy. It feels like people have kind of been waiting for this. He had his opportunity, squandered a little bit. Yeah. We know goaltenders develop a little bit later. Maybe this is just him arriving a little bit later than expected. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably a couple things. It's, the relationship he has with Chris Irregolari is a great one. And I don't want to give too much away from Ashley Dawkins' story she'll tell in the broadcast, but we all know goalies are a different breed, and the backups and the starters always have a strong relationship. But the relationship those two have is a really interesting one, both being Orangeville guys and their paths to get here. I think that having that relationship helped him because he really was playing for O'Rig in that game. You heard him post game. He's like, I just wanted the guys who couldn't play this weekend to have another opportunity to play. And he's going to have that mentality again this weekend. But positionally, I think, a lot of people were like, oh, we saw how he was against Saskatchewan, or when he was with Saskatchewan. He's got some holes. Toronto's going to find it out. The young man has evolved, and it's not for being a worse goaltender that he's not starting or hadn't been starting in front of Chris Regalor. This is Chris Regalor. He was the better goaltender during the season. And as a backup, you always just have to be ready. It's one of the craziest positions in all of sports is you may know for the next 16 weeks or the next however many in a row, you're not starting. It's the other guy. But at the drop of a hat, you have to be ready to turn it on and go into the cage. And he just kind of went in with a blank slate, right? Like, I just have to stop the next one. Just have to stop the next one. And he did a really good job. And I think Toronto will have to watch a lot of film and try to game plan around him and try to find some weaknesses and some tendencies. And I think they'll be good at that. But man, to have a repeat performance like that might be a little strong, but I still think he's going to give them as good a chance as Chris Regalor would at winning this game. So I think a lot of it comes down to how, again, we mentioned this, how Toronto adjusts to the adjustments. They've been game planning for O-Rig for so long. Well, now it's not O-Rig anymore, and it's Chris Regalor, or it's Cam Dunkley. So now you got to readjust. You got to, find those weaknesses, better ball movement. You kind of talked about it in that game one. It was English, Matthews, Rogers playing sort of hero ball, but within the team dynamic.
Yeah.
In game two, it was hero ball for the me dynamic. Like, guys were just trying to do way too much on their own. And they couldn't, they just got away from it. And that's part of frustration. Yeah. That's part of the defensive adjustments. That's part of the way Dunkerley was playing. And then another part of it is, and much like Halifax has done in their 2 games in the playoffs, in the fourth quarter, San Diego had the majority of possession. Halifax had the majority of possession, and they're wearing teams down. So for Toronto, for Georgia, you're going to have to find a way to play 60 and not get tired and not allow those multiple. Like, there was one possession, I think there was like 3 or 4 resets in a row, and that just wears on teams. And that keeps, your goaltender fresh, and it tires out the other goaltender. So long story short, I think Dunks can do it again at that level. Maybe not, but he's going to be ready to go, and he's going to be absolutely fantastic. But I also think Nick Rose is going to want to show that, hey, you know what? And it's crazy. If you look at his stats, he's gotten better over the 3 games he's played in the playoffs. His goals against has gone down. His save percentage has gone up. Just the team in front of him just hasn't been there, or wasn't there in game 2. So I expect a completely different outcome, or at least performance from Toronto in game 3.
Yeah, and I think this is where, whether you believe faceoffs matter, don't matter, that's another story. I think maybe we're going to be talking about a lot with the faceoffs, but not even talking about faceoffs. I'm talking about possessions here. San Diego was one of the best possession teams all season long, and sure, maybe the fruits didn't come to its labor, but it's doing it now. And when I say possession, I mean faceoffs, I mean loose balls and high volume shooting. They were the high volume shooting team in game number 2. Game 1, they were as well. But game 2, you're right. They were firing and firing and firing. And we've seen a change with Halifax down the stretch. They were a team that would grind you out in other ways, 25 seconds on the shot clock, then take a shot and start thinking about leaking back in transition to make sure, that's something that they wanted to be aware of. Now it's like, and for San Diego, it's like, if a good shot presents it, take it, because they have the confidence. We're getting the ball back. We've got Leclerc, we've got Courier, we got Berg. These guys are absolute dogs. They're going to pick up the loose ball and get that 30-second reset. And one thing in game 1 that Toronto did really well was getting those loose balls, anticipating where those balls were going to be.
And that creates their transition, which they didn't have in game 2.
Yes. It did not feel like they were playing on their heels, and they weren't like, it just was.
We asked Bruce Codd this, why wasn't there morning shoot around? I think a lot of people were kind of wondering that, and they felt just because it was an earlier start time, just the logistics of everything, it didn't make sense for them. So that's their decision. But for me, it just, the whole game, they just seemed like they were a step and a half behind. And I'm not sure that's because they didn't have shoot around or not.
Yeah.
But They were on their heels. They were a step behind. They just, after that first goal, they just couldn't get it going.
Yeah. And I would argue like the Toronto defense, especially in the first half, was great. It was 4-1 at that point. It just fell apart down the stretch. The frustration, obviously boiling over.
Yeah.
I think that was frustration. I also think when you're tired like that, you make stupid mistakes and you're more Absolutely. I think that was them rearing their ugly head. And then San Diego started to capitalize on some of that stuff in transition as well, which is Toronto all season long has been such a good transition team going the other way as well. So listen, we've talked about it a lot in some of these games down the stretch. Like, I think that game couldn't have got any worse for Toronto offensively. And I don't know if, San Diego could have played a better game. Pat Merrill told us, like we said, that was their best game probably of the year. Meet somewhere in the middle for game 3. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I think teams are going to feel each other out. And I think we're in for what could be an all-time classic. If you told me we were in for an 8-6 game, I would believe it. If you told me you were in for a 16-15 game, Teddy, I'd believe it. I genuinely don't know how this game ends. And isn't that the best type of games where you don't know what's going to happen? Yeah.
And every time I predict what's going to happen for the last couple of weeks, it's gone completely the other way. So Georgia doesn't have Georgia does sort of have the lenience of, they can maybe play a bad quarter and race back to force a game 3. It's not like do or die, but it is essentially do or die because, Halifax playing at home, the nest is going to be rocking. We just spoke with Eddie Comeau and, his team's just got to go out there and play their game. But if you're Halifax, how do you not, like, I know it's easier said than done, but how do you not look at what's just around the corner and lose focus of what's right in front of you? Because that is the trap that is this game right now.
It really is. And that's something that I think you have to realize. And like you can't downplay it, to be quite honest, like the opportunity, because if you do downplay it, I think then you don't match the intensity and the urgency of Georgia. You can't also put it on a pedestal and look ahead, like you said, though, either, because then you're looking past your team and you're not living in the moment. You're not playing where your feet are. So I think there has to be a certain level of balance between knowing the moment, embracing the challenge, and not getting ahead of yourself. Like if you told Halifax this at the start of the year, that going into the last semifinal weekend, you're going to be up 1-0, and all you got to do is win 2 games in the nest, they'd sign off that in a heartbeat.
They only got to win 1 game in the nest.
Sorry, 1 game, but they have 2 games to do it.
Yeah, they have 2 chances. Yeah,
right.
Sign me up all day.
Yeah, and I would sign up for it too. But the only issue for them is you're going up against a young, resilient Georgia team, one of the hottest goalies in the NLL, and to be quite frank, the best road team in the entire National Lacrosse League. 5-2 on the road this year are the Swarm. 6-2 if you include their game in Edmonton as well. So pretty crazy.
Graham has them at 7-2 on NLLstats.com as the away
7-2. Actually, that would make sense. Yeah, 7-2, 9 away games. So yeah. So 7-2, 8-2 if you include the unboxed game, because they were technically the home team.
Right. I think this is going to be one of those games where the first 5 minutes will be a big telltale of how this game's going to be played out. Is it going to be a goaltender duel? Is it going to be run and gun? But you're going to expect the Knoxes, the Burns, the Jammers, the CP24s, the Lyles, like J-Mac, like everybody is going to be going. And there is no tomorrow. for for Georgia, they got to force a Sunday game, and there's no tomorrow for San Diego or Toronto on Saturday night. Game 2, Halifax, Georgia goes Saturday. Pete Dowday, Mackie Jenner, Brianne Foley will have the call. If there's a game 3, the 3 of them will be on the call for that as well. Game 3 in Hamilton, myself, Pat Gregoire, and the big dog, Ashley Docking, will have the call on TSN. For the final time of the semifinals, let's check in with the Polar Bears.
Time now for Box Bets, your source for all the lines, odds, and props from across the world of lacrosse. Brought to you by CoolBet.com. Stay cool, bet responsibly.
Hey, we're having a good day, lads. And we're still in the mix, baby.
The bootlegger will be watching this game from Halifax, in Halifax. The other Halifax, that is. But the Polar Bears are on it. The odds are ever changing, and hopefully they're forever in your favor, Patty.
Yes, they are. And speaking of favorites right now, and I heard the fellows on Lax Class talk about that this week. They were surprised to know that the Thunderbirds are the outright favorites to win the NLL Cup. And listen before you freak out.
Sorry.
It's about odds. It's about chances. They are currently up 1-0 in their series. So all they have to do, by theory, they win one more game and they're in. Yes, you could say the same thing about San Diego. You could say the same thing about Toronto. But if they lose a game, they're done. Yeah. So by virtue, Halifax has the best probability because they can still lose one more game. Heck, they can win one game and punch their ticket, and then they're in the finals. When the reset happens, and if maybe Toronto's there, then we might see a shift in the odds. So what I'm trying to say here, Teddy, is if you're looking to bet Toronto, San Diego, or Georgia, now is the time to do so because we probably will see a shift in odds. And if you want Halifax, you're probably going to get a better number at some point. So here's how it all shakes down. The winner of the NLL Cup odds, as I mentioned, Halifax plus 165. Toronto is at plus 195. San Diego at plus 400. And Georgia bringing up the rear at plus 450. The game odds, though, Teddy, has Georgia as the favorite to win game number 2, minus 120. The Halifax Thunderbirds are the road dogs at plus 100. When you look at the spread, Georgia minus 1.5 is plus 120. Plus 1.5 for Halifax is minus 145. The total, both totals actually are set at 21 solid. My apologies there. In the Toronto game in Hamilton, the home team is the favorite at minus 154. San Diego is the road dog at plus 126. You can get San Diego plus a goal and a half at minus 120. The Rock minus 1.5 at plus 100. And as mentioned, the total set at 21.
Would you take San Diego plus 1.5? Coming off the win?
The only thing in these elimination games that is scary about that is, yes, there's a good chance that it's going to be a close game, but it's the last game of the year, empty nets, that kind of thing is a little bit terrifying. Is a little bit terrifying. I think if you're going to place a bet on San Diego, I think you're better off just going money line and betting them outright. I really don't know. I think game 2, Halifax, Georgia, coin flip. I think this one, coin flip as well. If we want to, because we didn't build a parlay last week, I will make sure we get a player prop parlay up for Saturday. The odds aren't available yet, but we'll get something up by the time either this show is playing or if you're listening to it on Friday morning. But listen, we know we don't cheer for teams. We
No,
know we have our unbiased media hats on,
Mhm.
but we do work for TSN,
We do.
Canada sports leader.
Mhm.
It would be pretty good for that program. It'd be pretty good for you and I. Heck, it would be pretty good for growth of the sport in here to have an all Canadian showdown. Should we, for our parlay, should we do Halifax money line, Toronto money line, put that together, plus 230? I know it's not as juicy as you normally would like.
Yeah, let's do it. Run it back.
All right. Plus 230. Oh, Canada. An all Canadian classic. Plus 230. We'll get a boost on that. We'll get that number to be a little bit higher. So sorry to our American friends. This is nothing personal. This is financial for our pocketbooks. And for the folks who are north of the border who are on CoolBet, it also could be beneficial for you as well to place that wager and see a Canadian showdown. You know what? I will also make sure it won't be under our tab, but maybe I'll put it in the combo cards for an all-American showdown if there are other people that
Sure.
maybe want to do that.
Fair enough. All right. Of course, NLL playoffs. There's NLL playoffs, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs are going on. Tons of fun over on coolbet.com, and not just a gambling website. You can play at the casino as well, whether you want the roulette, the poker tables, blackjack. It's all over there. And again, if it's your first time, don't be ashamed, but register all your information. At the bottom will be a promo code. Type in OTCB, and the Polar Bears will match your first deposit up to $200 to give you a few extra Polar bucks to enjoy and play along. And as we always say, stay cool.
Bet responsibly.
2 games guaranteed, possibly 3 this weekend. All games on NLL Plus, ESPN Plus, TSN Plus, and the big one, TSN, Saturday night in Hamilton. Rock Seals, Game 3. Winner advances to the finals, and who knows? By the time that game is over, they could already know who they are playing. But if all goes well, if we all love chaos just as much as I do, Saturday night's game goes in overtime. Georgia wins Saturday in Halifax. They force a Game 3 inside the nest, and it will be absolutely bumping. He's Pat Gregoire. Find him at P. Greggy. My name's Teddy Jenner at Teddy Jenner. Thanks to Ed Comeau, head coach of the Georgia Swarm, and the general manager of Team Canada for the Olympics, for stopping by, giving us some time. The show is at OTCB_podcast or on Instagram at OTCB Podcast. Enjoy the games this weekend. If you do go to a game, take a friend. If you take a friend, take 2, buy them a beer. Lacrosse, friends, and beer, the perfect trifecta on this wonderful March through May. Until we speak again, stay safe and be excellent to each other.